From the outside, my life looked flawless. A beautiful home, a thriving career, and a husband everyone envied. But behind closed doors, the cracks in our marriage were growing deeper. Adam had become distant, his once affectionate demeanor replaced by cold indifference. At first, I thought it was work stress. He'd always been ambitious, a trait that had drawn me to him in the first place. But the signs became harder to ignore. The late-night meetings, the secretive phone calls, the sudden unexplained business trips. They all painted a picture I didn't want to see. One evening as I was tidying up the living room, I found a receipt tucked into his jacket pocket. It was for an expensive dinner at a restaurant we'd always talked about going to but never did. The date was during one of his business trips. My heart sank. I wanted to believe there was an innocent explanation, but deep down I knew the truth. Confronting him seemed impossible. Adam had a way of twisting words, making me doubt my own instincts. So I kept quiet, hoping for proof that would either confirm or dispel my suspicions. Days turned into weeks and my anxiety grew. Every time he looked at his phone with that faint smile, my stomach churned. One night, curiosity got the better of me. While Adam was in the shower, I picked up his phone, my hands trembling as I entered his passcode, a combination I knew from years of shared trust. What I found shattered me. There they were. Messages from another woman. Her name was Emily, and their conversation was anything but innocent. Flirty texts, plans for secret getaways, and worst of all, a photo of them together smiling like a happy couple. My knees gave out and I sank onto the bed, the phone slipping from my hands. The betrayal felt like a physical blow, knocking the air out of my lungs. I wanted to scream, to confront him, to demand answers, but I knew Adam. He'd find a way to deny it, to blame me, to make me feel small and insignificant. So I stayed quiet, my mind racing. I couldn't live like this, but I didn't know how to leave. Adam controlled everything, our finances, our social circle, even the narrative of our lives. If I walked away, he'd paint me as the villain and I'd lose everything. That's when the idea struck me, a desperate, wild idea that seemed impossible yet oddly liberating. What if I didn't just leave? What if I disappeared completely? The thought terrified and exhilarated me. I spent sleepless nights researching, planning, and calculating every detail. I knew it wouldn't be easy, but the alternative, staying trapped in a life built on lies, was unbearable. The turning point came when Adam announced yet another business trip. I knew it was a lie, just another excuse to spend time with Emily. As he packed his bags, I forced myself to smile, to play the role of the doting wife one last time. The moment he walked out the door, I sprang into action. I withdrew money from our joint account, careful not to raise any red flags. I packed a bag with essentials, clothes, documents, anything I couldn't replace, and left the rest behind. My heart pounded as I booked a one-way ticket to a city far away, somewhere Adam would never think to look. I left a note on the kitchen counter, its words carefully chosen. Adam, I need time to think. Don't try to find me. It wasn't much, but it would buy me time, enough to put my plan into motion. As the plane took off, I stared out the window, watching the city shrink into the distance. A mix of fear and exhilaration coursed through me. I was leaving behind everything I had ever known. My home, my friends, my identity. But I was also leaving behind the pain, the betrayal, and the man who had made me feel like I was never enough. For the first time in years, I felt free. When the plane touched down in the new city, a wave of anxiety hit me. I was in an unfamiliar place with no plan beyond escaping Adam's shadow. The bustling airport felt surreal, a sea of strangers moving with purpose while I stood frozen, clutching my small bag of belongings. The first thing I did was check into a small motel, paying in cash to avoid leaving a trail. The room was basic, its faded wallpaper and creaky bed a far cry from the home I had left behind, but it was mine, a space where I could breathe and think. That first night, I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the envelope of cash I had withdrawn. It wasn't much, just enough to get by for a few weeks. My heart raced as I realized the enormity of what I had done. I had left everything behind, including the safety net of my old life. The next morning, I ventured out into the city, a bustling metropolis that seemed to hum with opportunity. The anonymity was comforting, No one knew me here, and I could be whoever I wanted. I bought a cheap phone and used it to call Clara, my closest friend and confidant. "I did it," I said when she picked up. My voice was shaky, but there was a sense of relief in finally saying the words out loud. Clara gasped. "Mia, are you serious? You actually left?" "Yes," I replied, my eyes welling up. "I couldn't stay, Clara. Not after everything. He cheated on me. He lied to me. I couldn't take it anymore." Clara's voice softened. "I'm proud of you," she said. "It takes so much courage to do what you did. But what's your plan now?" That was the question I had been avoiding. "I don't know yet," I admitted. "I just needed to get away. I'll figure it out." And so began my journey of starting over. I found a small cafe nearby that was hiring and secured a job as a waitress. The pay was modest, but it was enough to cover my motel expenses and meals. The work was exhausting, but it gave me a sense of purpose, a distraction from the whirlwind of emotions inside me. Every day felt like a small victory. I learned to navigate the city, found a thrift store where I could buy affordable clothes, and even started making acquaintances at the cafe. My coworkers were kind, their casual conversations a welcome reprieve from the loneliness that lingered in the corners of my mind. But at night, when the city quieted and I was left alone with my thoughts, the doubts crept in. Had I made the right choice? Could I really rebuild my life from scratch? One evening, as I walked home from work, I stumbled upon an art studio advertising evening classes. The sight stirred something inside me, a reminder of a passion I had long buried. Back in college, I had dreamed of becoming an artist, but life with Adam had pushed those dreams aside. On a whim, I signed up for a class. The first session was intimidating. I hadn't picked up a paintbrush in years. But as I dipped my brush into the vibrant colors and let it glide across the canvas, a sense of peace washed over me. The studio became my sanctuary, a place where I could express my emotions without fear of judgment. The instructor, an older woman with kind eyes and a sharp wit, took notice of my dedication. "You've got talent," she said one evening, studying my work. "Have you ever considered doing this professionally?" I laughed, the idea seeming absurd. "No, I'm just here to unwind," I replied. But her words planted a seed, one that would grow in the months to come. Meanwhile, Adam began to notice my absence. The messages started pouring in. Texts, voicemails, even emails. At first, they were laced with confusion and frustration. "Mia, where are you? Come home. We can fix this." But as the days turned into weeks, his tone shifted. The anger faded, replaced by desperation. "Mia, please talk to me. I made a mistake. I'll do anything to make it right." I didn't respond. I couldn't. Claire kept me updated on his antics back home. "He's losing it," she said during one of our phone calls. "He's asking everyone if they've heard from you. It's almost pathetic." "Let him look," I replied, my voice firm. "He won't find me." Despite my resolve, the thought of Adam searching for me sent shivers down my spine. I had to stay hidden to keep building the life I deserved without him. Weeks turned into months, and my new life began to feel more like a reality. I was no longer just surviving. I was thriving in ways I hadn't expected. But while I was finding my footing, Adam's desperation seemed to grow with each passing day, his efforts to find me becoming more relentless. Claire kept me informed, her updates a mix of entertainment and warning. "He's practically camped out at your old haunts," she said during one call. "The coffee shop, the gym, even the grocery store. It's like he thinks you'll magically show up." I couldn't help but feel a pang of satisfaction. Adam was finally experiencing a fraction of the chaos he had inflicted on me. But beneath the satisfaction was a thread of anxiety. What if he did find me? What would he do? One day, Clara called with a new development. "You won't believe this," she said, her voice tinged with disbelief. "He hired a private investigator." The news sent a chill down my spine. I had taken precautions to cover my tracks, paying in cash, avoiding social media, using a different name at my job. But the thought of someone actively searching for me was unsettling. "What do I do?" I asked, my voice trembling. "You stay calm," Clara replied. You've been careful, Mia. He's grasping at straws. Just keep your head down. Despite Clara's reassurance, the fear lingered. I found myself looking over my shoulder, scanning faces in the crowd for anyone who seemed out of place. At work, I kept my interactions professional and avoided sharing personal details with my coworkers. The art studio became my refuge, a place where I could lose myself in creativity and forget, even if just for a little while, about the man who was trying to pull me back into his web. One evening, as I walked home from class, I received an unexpected text from an unknown number. I miss you, Mia. Please just tell me where you are. I need to see you. My heart raced as I stared at the message, my mind racing with possibilities. How had he gotten my number? Had I slipped up somehow? I didn't respond. Instead, I blocked the number and resolved to be even more cautious. The next day, Claire called with more updates. He's spiraling, Mia, she said. He's barely going to work, and when he does, he looks like he hasn't slept in days. Everyone's talking about it. Good, I replied, though my voice lacked conviction. Adam's misery didn't bring me the satisfaction I thought it would. If anything, it reminded me of how much power he still had over my emotions. In the midst of Adam's search, I found myself becoming closer to the people in my new life. At the cafe, my coworkers became my support system, their easy camaraderie a welcome contrast to the tension of my old life. One coworker in particular, Alex, stood out. He was kind and thoughtful, with a quiet sense of humor that put me at ease. Over time, our friendship deepened and I began to feel something I hadn't felt in a long time, hope for the possibility of love. Alex's presence was steady and unobtrusive. He didn't pry into my past or push for more than I was ready to give. Instead, he simply showed up, offering a shoulder to lean on and a listening ear when I needed it. You seem lighter these days, he said one afternoon as we shared a coffee break. I guess I'm learning to let go, I replied, a small smile tugging at my lips. But letting go wasn't easy, especially when Adam's presence loomed in the background. Claire called one evening with an update that sent my heart racing. He's starting to focus on your family now, she said. He thinks they know where you are. The thought of Adam harassing my parents or siblings filled me with guilt. I had tried to shield them from the fallout of my decision, but now they were being dragged into the mess I had left behind. For the first time since leaving, I considered the possibility of confronting Adam, not to return, but to end his search and reclaim my peace. The idea terrified me, but it also felt necessary. The idea of confronting Adam filled me with dread, but the thought of him tormenting my family was worse. I couldn't let him continue to disrupt their lives because of the choices I had made. So with a pounding heart and shaky resolve, I began to prepare. I reached out to Clara first, knowing she'd be the voice of reason I needed. Are you sure about this? She asked when I told her my plan. You don't owe him anything, Mia. He's the one who betrayed you. I know, I replied, my voice steady despite the nerves bubbling inside me. But he won't stop until I make him. I need to do this, for me and for my family. Clara sighed but didn't argue further. Just promise me you'll be careful, she said. The next step was deciding how and where to confront him. I didn't want to meet at my new home or anywhere he could connect to my new life. Instead, I chose a neutral location, a quiet park on the outskirts of the city. It was open and public enough to feel safe, but private enough for the conversation I knew we needed to have. I called him from a burner phone, my stomach twisting as I dialed his number. He answered on the first ring. Mia? His voice was a mix of disbelief and relief. Adam, stop looking for me, I said, skipping the pleasantries. This is the last time we're going to talk. He tried to interrupt, but I cut him off. Meet me at Highland Park tomorrow at noon, and come alone. Before he could respond, I hung up, my hands trembling as I set the phone down. The next 24 hours were a blur of anxiety and anticipation. I replayed every possible scenario in my mind, bracing myself for what was to come. When the time came, I arrived early, choosing a bench near the edge of the park where we could talk without drawing attention. I wore sunglasses and a scarf, hoping to shield myself from any unwanted attention. Adam arrived shortly after, his tall frame unmistakable even from a distance. He looked different, thinner, his hair slightly unkempt, his eyes shadowed with exhaustion. It was a far cry from the polished man I had once called my husband. "Mia," he said as he approached, his voice laced with emotion. "You're really here." I stood, keeping the bench between us. "I'm here," I replied. "But this doesn't mean what you think it does." He took a step closer, but I held up a hand to stop him. "Why are you doing this, Adam? Why can't you just let me go?" His face crumpled, and for a moment, I saw the vulnerability beneath his usual facade. "Because I made a mistake," he said, his voice trembling. "I didn't realize what I had until it was gone. I thought I could move on, but I can't. I need you, Mia." I shook my head, my heart hardening against his words. "You didn't think about what you had when you were with Emily," I said, my voice cold. "You didn't think about me, about us. You only thought about yourself." He tried to protest, but I didn't let him. "You lied to me, Adam. You broke my trust. And now you expect me to come back because you're finally realizing what you lost? That's not how this works." Tears welled in his eyes, but I refused to let my resolve waver. I left because I couldn't live with the lies anymore. I needed to find myself again, to rebuild the life you tore apart. And I did. He reached out as if to touch my hand, but I stepped back. "I don't hate you, Adam," I said softly. "But I can't forgive you either. You need to stop looking for me. Let me go." He stared at me for a long moment, his shoulders slumping as the reality of my words sank in. "I'm sorry, Mia," he whispered. "For everything." "I know," I replied. "But it's too late." As I walked away, I felt a mixture of relief and sadness. Confronting Adam had been one of the hardest things I'd ever done, but it was also one of the most empowering. For the first time, I felt truly free. Free to live my life without the shadow of his betrayal hanging over me. After confronting Adam, it felt as though a massive weight had been lifted from my shoulders. For the first time in years, I could breathe deeply, knowing I had taken control of my life and put the past where it belonged, behind me. I threw myself into my work at the cafe, gaining confidence with each passing day. My coworkers began to feel like family, their warmth and camaraderie a stark contrast to the cold isolation I had endured in my marriage. One day, as I was clearing tables, my coworker Alex approached me with a wide grin. "Mia, have you seen this?" he asked, holding up his phone. I squinted at the screen, which displayed an advertisement for a local art competition. "You should enter," Alex said. "Your work is incredible. You'd have a real shot at winning." The thought intrigued me. Painting had always been a source of comfort, a way to process my emotions and express myself. But the idea of sharing my work with others made me nervous. "Maybe," I said non-committally, but the seed of an idea had already been planted. That evening, I dug out the canvases I had been working on in my spare time. Each stroke of paint told a story of heartbreak, of resilience, of rediscovery. As I studied my pieces, I realized that entering the competition wasn't just about winning. It was about reclaiming my voice and sharing my journey. Over the next few weeks, I poured every ounce of energy into preparing for the competition. My evenings were spent in my tiny apartment-turned-studio, where the walls were soon covered in vibrant, emotion-filled canvases. "You're really doing this," Alex said one evening as he stopped by to see my progress. "I am," I replied, a mix of excitement and nervousness bubbling inside me. "It feels right." The day of the competition arrived, and I stood among a sea of artists, each displaying their work with pride. My hands trembled as I set up my exhibit, but the supportive words of my coworkers and Clara echoed in my mind, giving me the courage I needed. The judges spent what felt like an eternity studying my pieces, their expressions unreadable. When they finally announced the winners, my heart nearly stopped when I heard my name. Tears filled my eyes as I walked onto the stage to accept the award. The applause was deafening, but all I could hear was the sound of my own heartbeat, pounding with pride and disbelief. "This is for everyone who's ever felt broken," I said during my brief acceptance speech. "And for those who found the strength to rebuild." The room erupted in applause, and for the first time in years, I felt truly seen. The win opened doors I hadn't even dared to dream of. Galleries reached out to display my work, and I was invited to speak at events about my journey as an artist. My life, once defined by Adam's betrayal, was now defined by resilience and creativity. One evening, as I sat in my apartment surrounded by congratulatory messages and new opportunities, Clara called. "I always knew you had it in you," she said, her voice filled with pride. "Thank you," I replied, my heart swelling with gratitude. "For believing in me even when I didn't believe in myself." But even as I celebrated my successes, there was a lingering thought in the back of my mind. What if Adam saw this? What would he think knowing I had risen from the ashes of his betrayal to create something beautiful? I didn't dwell on it for long. My focus was on the future, on the life I was building one brushstroke at a time. As the weeks passed, the satisfaction of my small victories began to fade under the weight of Adam's relentless search. Every time Clara called with an update, my heart raced with dread. "He's not giving up, Mia," she said during one call. "He's been asking your family questions they don't know how to answer. He's driving by your old workplace. It's like he's obsessed." Her words left me feeling cornered, as though no matter how far I ran, Adam would always find a way to pull me back into his orbit. One evening, as I painted in my tiny studio, my phone buzzed with another message from an unknown number. This time, the words chilled me to my core. "You can't hide forever." I stared at the screen, my chest tightening with fear. Adam's persistence was no longer just a nuisance. It was a threat. I realized then that simply cutting him off wouldn't be enough. If I wanted to be free, I had to make sure he truly believed I was gone. Clara was skeptical when I told her my idea. "Mia, this is extreme," she said. "You're talking about faking your own death. Do you even know how to pull that off?" "I have to try," I replied, my voice trembling. "He won't stop, Clara. He's suffocating me even from a distance. This is the only way." Over the next few days, I began to research. The internet was a treasure trove of information, offering everything from legal loopholes to detailed accounts of people who had successfully disappeared. I took notes obsessively, piecing together a plan that would allow me to vanish without leaving a trace. The first step was creating a believable story. I crafted a narrative of a tragic accident, something that would explain my sudden disappearance without raising too many questions. Clara reluctantly agreed to help, her loyalty outweighing her reservations. "If you're going to do this, you need to be smart," she said. "No loose ends. No second chances." Her words became my mantra as I tied up the loose threads of my life. I quit my job at the cafe, telling my boss that I needed to move for personal reasons. I packed up my apartment, donating or discarding anything that might link me to my old identity. The final piece of the puzzle was the accident itself. Clara suggested using a remote hiking trail, a place where the elements could mask the truth. Together, we planned every detail, from the personal items I'd leave behind to the message Clara would relay to authorities. "I'll make it convincing," she said, her voice heavy with concern. "But Mia, are you sure about this?" I nodded, my resolve unshaken. "I need this, Clara. I need to be free." The night before I was set to disappear, I sat in my nearly empty apartment, reflecting on everything I was leaving behind. My heart ached for the life I had once dreamed of, but I knew that clinging to the past would only hold me back. As I wrote a goodbye letter to my family, tears streamed down my face. I couldn't tell them the truth, but I hoped they would understand in time. On the day of the accident, Clara drove me to the trailhead, her hands gripping the steering wheel tightly. "This is it," she said as we pulled into the parking lot. "This is it," I echoed, my voice steady despite the storm of emotions inside me. I left a few personal items, a scarf, a shoe, a note scrawled on the back of a receipt, before disappearing into the dense forest. As I hiked deeper into the woods, the weight of what I was doing settled over me. This wasn't just a plan, it was a new beginning. I was leaving Mia behind, creating a blank slate where I could build a life free from Adam's control. When I finally emerged on the other side, Claire was waiting with a car and a new identity. "You're officially gone," she said, handing me a passport and a set of keys. "Thank you," I whispered, hugging her tightly. The day after my death, I sat in a small, nondescript motel room, staring at the burner phone Clara had given me. My hands trembled as I waited for her call. She had promised to handle everything, from contacting the authorities to informing my family. But the weight of what I had done pressed heavily on my chest. When the phone finally rang, I snatched it up, my voice barely above a whisper. "How did it go?" Clara sighed on the other end. "It's done. Everyone believes it. Your family is devastated, but..." Adam's reaction was intense. "What do you mean?" I asked, my heart pounding. "He broke down when I told him," she said. "At first he didn't believe me. He kept asking for proof, demanding to know how it happened. When I gave him the details, he completely unraveled." I closed my eyes, torn between satisfaction and guilt. This was what I had wanted, for him to let me go, to stop searching for me. But hearing about his pain didn't bring the relief I had hoped for. "What about my family?" I asked, shifting the focus. "They're heartbroken, Mia," Clara said softly, "but they're leaning on each other. I made sure they had a clear story to hold on to. They'll grieve, but they'll heal." Her reassurance eased some of my guilt, but not all of it. The news of my death spread quickly. Clara kept me updated, describing how Adam's life seemed to spiral out of control. He took time off work, stopped seeing Emily, and withdrew from his social circles. "He's a mess," Clara said during one call. "He's staying at your parents' house almost every day trying to comfort them. I think he blames himself." "He should," I replied, the bitterness in my voice surprising even me. Meanwhile, I focused on building my new identity. Claire had helped me secure a fake name, Lila Carter, and a simple backstory. I moved to a small coastal town far from anyone who might recognize me, and rented a modest apartment overlooking the water. The town was quiet, the perfect place to start fresh. I got a job at a local bookstore where the owner, a kind woman named Ellen, welcomed me without question. "You seem like you've been through a lot," Ellen said one afternoon as we unpacked boxes of books. "But you've got a light in you, Lila. Don't let anyone dim it." Her words brought tears to my eyes. Despite the peace of my new life, there were moments when the past felt inescapable. At night, I'd lie awake, wondering if I had made the right decision. I missed my family, missed the comfort of familiarity, but I reminded myself that this was the price of freedom. One evening, Claire called with unexpected news. "Adam started a foundation in your name," she said, her tone a mix of disbelief and amusement. "A foundation?" I echoed, confused. "For women in abusive or difficult relationships," she explained. "He's telling everyone it's his way of honoring you, of making up for what he couldn't do while you were alive." The irony wasn't lost on me. Adam, the man who had betrayed me, now positioning himself as a champion for women, was laughable, but it also stirred something inside me. Had my absence really made him reflect on his actions, or was this just another performance? Clara's updates became less frequent as I settled into my new life. She understood that I needed space, that I couldn't stay tethered to the world I had left behind. But when we did talk, her stories about Adam always left me with mixed emotions. "He's a different person now," she said during one call. "I don't know if it's guilt or if he's genuinely changed, but he's trying, Mia." "Good for him," I replied, my voice neutral. But deep down, I wondered if I'd ever stop feeling the echoes of his betrayal, the scars he had left on my heart. As the months passed, my new life as Lila Carter began to feel less like an escape and more like a second chance. The coastal town was a world away from the chaos I had left behind, its tranquil rhythm offering me the peace I so desperately needed. My job at the bookstore became more than just a way to make ends meet, it was a refuge. Ellen, the store's owner, took me under her wing, teaching me everything from inventory management to hosting community events. "You've got a way with people, Lila," she said one afternoon as we arranged a display of new arrivals. "They trust you. They see your heart." Her words touched me deeply, affirming the strength I had fought so hard to reclaim. One day, while sorting through a box of donated books, I stumbled upon a journal with a worn leather cover. Its blank pages seemed to beckon me, inviting me to fill them with the thoughts and emotions I had kept bottled up for so long. That evening, I began to write. At first, it was sporadic, fragments of memories and feelings I couldn't quite articulate. But as the days turned into weeks, the journal became a lifeline, a way to process the pain of my past and the hope of my future. Through writing, I rediscovered my love for storytelling. I started crafting short stories inspired by the people I met in town, weaving their quirks and kindnesses into tales of resilience and redemption. Ellen noticed my newfound passion and encouraged me to share my work. "There's a local literary competition coming up," she said, sliding a flyer across the counter. "You should enter. Your stories are too good to keep to yourself." The idea terrified me, but Ellen's unwavering belief in me gave me the courage to try. As I prepared for the competition, I found myself reconnecting with parts of myself I had long buried. The creative spark that Adam had once dimmed now burned brighter than ever, fueled by the freedom of my new life. The day of the competition arrived, and I stood nervously in a room filled with aspiring writers. When it was my turn to read, I felt my hands tremble as I held the microphone. "My story is about second chances," I began, my voice shaking but determined. When I finished, the applause was overwhelming. Strangers approached me afterward, their words of encouragement and admiration filling me with a sense of pride I hadn't felt in years. "You have a gift," one judge said, handing me a certificate for first place. "Never stop sharing your voice." The win was more than just a validation of my talent. It was a reminder that I had found something Adam could never take from me. But even as I celebrated my successes, there were moments when the past crept in. Clara's updates had grown less frequent, but the last time we spoke, she mentioned Adam's continued efforts to honor my memory. "He's hosting a charity gala in your name next month," she said. "It's like he's trying to rewrite history." Her words left me conflicted. On one hand, I felt a twisted sense of satisfaction knowing he was haunted by guilt. On the other, I wondered if his actions were genuine or just another attempt to control the narrative. Despite the lingering shadows of my past, I knew I couldn't let them define me. My life as Lila Carter was mine to shape, free from the constraints of Adam's betrayal. Ellen, ever the optimist, noticed my growing confidence. "You're glowing these days, Lila," she said one evening as we closed up shop. "Whatever it is you're doing, keep doing it." Her words made me smile, a warmth spreading through my chest. For the first time in years, I felt like I was finally becoming the person I was always meant to be. Life as Lila Carter had blossomed into something I could never have anticipated. My stories gained traction locally, and the literary competition won open doors I hadn't even dreamed of. I began writing regularly, with Ellen and others cheering me on. For the first time, I felt whole again, until an unwanted shadow from my past reappeared. It started innocently enough with a flyer for a charity gala that Ellen handed me one morning. "This might interest you," she said, unaware of the storm it would unleash. My heart stopped as I scanned the page. The event was a fundraiser for women's causes, hosted by none other than Adam. His name stood bold at the bottom, paired with a heartfelt tagline, honoring the memory of my beloved wife. The betrayal I thought I had buried surged to the surface. Adam's continued public display of remorse felt like a slap in the face, a reminder that no matter how far I ran, his presence would always linger. Clara confirmed my suspicions during our next call. "He's made your name a centerpiece of his redemption arc," she said. "People think he's a saint now, Mia. It's infuriating." I clenched the phone, my frustration boiling over. How dare he? He's using my death as a tool to rebuild his reputation while I'm here, rebuilding my life in silence. The idea of confronting Adam again crossed my mind, but I dismissed it. Revealing myself would undo everything I had worked so hard to build. Instead, I channeled my anger into my writing, crafting stories that explored themes of justice, resilience, and the power of truth. One story in particular garnered attention. A fictionalized account of a woman betrayed by her husband and forced to fake her death to escape. The piece resonated deeply with readers, its raw honesty sparking conversations online. Ellen beamed with pride as the story's success grew. "You've struck a chord, Lila," she said. "People are seeing themselves in your words." The attention brought opportunities, but also risks. As my name gained recognition, I worried that someone might connect the dots to my old life. But the thrill of success was too intoxicating to ignore. Then one day an email arrived that shook me to my core. It was from an anonymous sender with the subject line, "I know who you are." The message was short but chilling. "Your story sounds awfully familiar, Mia. I hope you're enjoying your new life. Panic set in as I stared at the screen. Who could have sent it? Was it Adam? A private investigator? Someone from my past who had recognized me? I called Clara immediately, my voice shaking. Someone knows, Clara. They sent me an email. She tried to calm me down. It's probably just a coincidence, she said. But you need to be careful. Change your email, tighten your security. Don't let them rattle you. I took her advice, but the email lingered in my mind like a dark cloud. Every stranger who entered the bookstore, every unfamiliar face at the cafe, felt like a potential threat. The peace I had fought so hard to build began to crack under the weight of paranoia. One evening, as I walked home, I noticed a man following me. He stayed a safe distance behind, but every time I glanced over my shoulder, he was there. My heart raced as I quickened my pace, my mind racing with worst-case scenarios. When I finally reached my apartment, I locked the door behind me and peered through the peephole. The man stood across the street, his face obscured by shadows. After what felt like an eternity, he turned and walked away, leaving me shaken and questioning everything. The next morning, I confided in Ellen, who offered me a kind but firm reminder. You've come too far to let fear take over, she said. You're stronger than this, Lila. Her words reignited the spark of resilience inside me. I couldn't let the shadows of my past dictate my future. I had to face whatever came next head-on, no matter how daunting it seemed. The email and the shadowy figure had left me rattled, but Alan's reminder of my strength stayed with me. I couldn't let fear dictate my life, not after everything I had overcome. It was time to confront whatever, or whoever, was threatening my hard-won peace. The first step was regaining control over my digital presence. I changed my email, secured my social media profiles, and installed security cameras outside my apartment. It felt extreme, but the sense of safety it gave me was worth the effort. Clara helped me investigate the email. It could just be a troll, she said, scrolling through the metadata. But the fact that they called you Mia, it's unsettling. I can't keep running, I replied. If they want to find me, I need to know who they are and what they want. One afternoon, while at the bookstore, Alan approached me with a hesitant expression. Lila, she began, there's someone here asking about you. My heart dropped. Who? He didn't say much, she replied. But he's been browsing for a while and keeps glancing toward you. Want me to handle it? No, I said, straightening my shoulders. I'll handle it. I stepped out from behind the counter, my pulse racing as I approached the man. He was tall and well-dressed, with sharp features and piercing eyes. He didn't look like Adam or anyone I recognized, but there was something unnerving about his presence. Can I help you? I asked, keeping my tone polite but firm. He looked surprised, then smiled faintly. You're hard to find, Mia, he said quietly. The sound of my real name sent a jolt through me. I think you have me confused with someone else, I replied, feigning ignorance. I don't think so, he said, pulling a folded piece of paper from his pocket. He handed it to me, and my breath caught as I recognized it, a printout of one of my stories. Your writing is impressive, he continued. Almost too personal to be fiction. I stared at him, trying to mask my panic. I appreciate the compliment, but I really don't know what you're talking about. The man chuckled softly. You're good at this, reinventing yourself, staying under the radar. But secrets have a way of catching up with us, don't they? What do you want? I asked, my voice trembling despite my best efforts to stay calm. I want to help, he said simply. You've been through a lot, and it's admirable how you've rebuilt your life. But pretending the past doesn't exist won't make it go away. His words felt like a thinly veiled threat, and I didn't trust his sudden interest in my well-being. I'm fine on my own, I said, stepping back. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have work to do. He nodded, his expression unreadable. Take care, Lila, or should I say Mia? After he left, I rushed to the back of the store, my hands shaking as I called Clara. He knows who I am, I whispered. He found me. Did he say what he wanted? Clara asked, her voice laced with concern. Something about helping me, I replied. But I don't believe him. Stay calm, she said. We'll figure this out. You're not alone in this. In the days that followed, I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. The man didn't return to the bookstore, but his words lingered in my mind. Who is he? How did he find me? And why did he seem so invested in my story? Ellen noticed my unease and suggested I take some time off. You've been through enough, she said. Give yourself a break. Reluctantly, I agreed. I spent the next few days in my apartment, reflecting on my journey and how far I had come. One evening, as I flipped through my journal, an idea struck me. I had spent so much time running from my past, but maybe it was time to confront it head-on. I began drafting a new story, one that didn't just fictionalize my experiences but laid them bare. If someone wanted to expose me, I would beat them to it. As the idea took shape in my mind, it felt like the missing piece of my journey. I had spent so much time hiding, running, and pretending. But now I realized that the only way to truly free myself was to own my story. The decision to write my truth was both terrifying and exhilarating. I knew it would expose everything. Adam's betrayal, my faked death, the lies I'd told to protect myself. But it would also be my chance to take back control, to reclaim the narrative that had been twisted and used against me. I spent days pouring my soul onto the pages, reliving every painful memory and every moment of resilience. The words flowed faster than I could write them, as though my story had been waiting all along to be told. When I finished, I hesitated. The manuscript sat on my desk like a loaded gun, its potential power both thrilling and dangerous. I knew that sharing it would invite judgment, scrutiny, and possibly even legal consequences. But it would also free me from the weight of secrecy. I reached out to Clara, sending her the manuscript with a simple message, "I'm ready." Her response came quickly. "Are you sure about this? Once it's out, there's no going back." "Yes," I replied. "It's time." The next step was finding a platform. I submitted the story anonymously to a popular online literary magazine, one known for its raw and authentic narratives. To my surprise, the editor responded almost immediately, praising the piece and offering to publish it as a serialized feature. "We'll keep your identity confidential if that's what you want," the editor wrote. "But stories like this deserve to be heard." I agreed, requesting that they use a pseudonym. The first installment went live a week later, and the response was overwhelming. Readers flooded the comments section with praise, empathy, and questions. They connected deeply with the story's themes of betrayal, survival, and self-reclamation. Many shared their own experiences, creating a community of support and solidarity. The story quickly gained traction, spreading across social media and sparking conversations about resilience and empowerment. Clara called me daily, excitedly sharing the latest reactions. "Mia, you've started something bigger than you realize," she said. But with the attention came risks. Adam was still out there, and I knew it was only a matter of time before he stumbled upon the story. When Clara called one evening, her tone was grave. "He knows," she said simply. My stomach dropped. "How?" "He recognized the details," she explained. "He's furious, but he hasn't made any moves yet. I think he's trying to figure out how to respond." The news rattled me, but it also strengthened my resolve. I wasn't the same person I had been when I left Adam. I was stronger now, more confident in my ability to face whatever came my way. I continued writing, adding new installments that delved deeper into my journey. With each word, I felt a little lighter, as though I was shedding the weight of my past piece by piece. Then one evening, I received an email from Adam. It was short and direct. "We need to talk. Please just give me a chance to explain." For a moment, I considered ignoring it. But something inside me urged me to face him one last time, not for his sake, but for mine. I replied with a single sentence, "Meet me at Highland Park tomorrow at noon." The next day, I arrived at the park early, choosing a bench near the fountain. The air was crisp, and the sounds of children playing nearby contrasted sharply with the tension building inside me. When Adam arrived, he looked like a shadow of the man I had once known. His tailored suit hung loosely on his frame, and his eyes were sunken with exhaustion. "Mia," he said, his voice heavy with emotion. I held up a hand, cutting him off. "I'm not here for apologies, Adam," I said firmly. "I'm here to end this." He nodded slowly, his expression one of defeat. "I just want to understand," he said. "Why didn't you tell me? Why did you feel like you had to disappear?" "Because you made me feel like I didn't exist," I replied, my voice steady. "You lied to me, cheated on me, and took away every ounce of trust one had in you. Disappearing was the only way I could reclaim my life." The conversation was difficult, filled with raw emotions and unspoken truths. But as I walked away from the park that day, I felt a sense of closure I hadn't realized I needed. Walking away from Adam that day felt like closing the final chapter of a long, painful book. The confrontation hadn't erased the scars of our past, but it had given me the closure I needed to move forward without looking back. As I returned to my apartment, a wave of peace washed over me. My journey had been anything but easy, but every step, every struggle had led me to this moment. I wasn't the same person I had been when I left Adam. I was stronger, wiser, and more in tune with who I truly was. The serialized story I had published was nearing its conclusion, and the magazine's editor reached out to discuss turning it into a full-length book. "Your story has resonated with so many people," she said. "I think it deserves a wider audience." The idea thrilled me. Writing had been my lifeline, a way to process my emotions and reclaim my voice. Turning my journey into a book felt like the ultimate triumph, a way to transform my pain into something meaningful. Ellen celebrated the news with her usual enthusiasm. "I always knew you'd do great things, Lila," she said as we shared a celebratory cup of coffee. "You've come so far." Her words brought tears to my eyes. For so long, I had doubted myself, questioned whether I deserved happiness or success. But now, I knew that I was capable of building a life on my own terms. The book deal brought new opportunities, including invitations to speak at events and share my story with others. At first, the idea of standing in front of an audience terrified me, but I reminded myself of the strength I had gained along the way. The first speaking event was held at a local library, where a small crowd gathered to hear me discuss my journey. As I looked out at the audience, I saw faces filled with empathy and understanding, each one a testament to the power of shared experiences. "This story isn't just about betrayal," I said, my voice steady. "It's about resilience, about finding the strength to rebuild when everything falls apart. If my journey can inspire even one person to keep going, then it's all been worth it." The applause that followed was deafening, and for the first time, I felt truly proud of myself. Meanwhile, Clara remained my rock, cheering me on from afar and reminding me of how far I'd come. "You've turned your pain into power, Mia," she said during one of our phone calls. "You're unstoppable." Her words rang true. The fear and uncertainty that had once defined my life were now replaced by confidence and determination. I was no longer running from my past. I was using it as fuel to create a brighter future. Adam reached out one final time, sending a letter that Clara forwarded to me. In it, he apologized for everything he had done, admitting that my disappearance had forced him to confront his own flaws. "I don't expect forgiveness," he wrote. "But I hope you found happiness. You deserve it." I folded the letter and tucked it away, feeling a sense of closure. Forgiveness didn't mean forgetting, but I no longer carried the weight of his betrayal. My life as Lila Carter flourished. The book became a bestseller, its success opening doors I had never imagined. I traveled, met incredible people, and continued to share my story, each step reinforcing the strength I had found within myself. One evening, as I stood on the balcony of my apartment, looking out at the ocean, I felt a deep sense of gratitude. The journey had been painful, but it had also been transformative. I no longer feared the shadows of my past. Instead, I embraced the woman I had become, strong, resilient, and unafraid to shine. And for the first time in years, I knew I was exactly where I was meant to be.